Hi, Dr. Mark here, and today I'm going to talk to you about one of the most important things that you can ever do is learn about how your digestive system works. Your digestive system is the number one reason why people start to become sick, why they become ill. So I want to explain to this that I've got a 5-part series that I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to break it down, make it real simple to understand. So the first thing we have to do is take a look at where does digestion begin. It begins in our mouth. So we have all these teeth in here designed to break down your food. So we need to, first of all, number one rule is to chew our food at least 20 times per bite. Grind it up. There is enzymes called amylase which breaks down your carbohydrates right in your mouth. So that's where it starts to break your food down. Next thing what happens is it goes down into the stomach. Now your stomach, as you can see here, it has a lining to it. The lining has a special mucus protection layer so that we can have very strong acid in our stomach in order to break our food down, particularly protein. So when we have food come down there, it signals the lining. The lining makes what we call hydrochloric acid. So hydrochloric acid should be between 1.5 and 3. And it is very powerful. It will eat a hole right through my desk in no time. But that mucus layer will protect the stomach. So the purpose of that hydrochloric acid being so strong is to break down protein and break down your food. So when food comes in there, think of it like clothes in a dryer. It tumbles around in this acid bath and it breaks it down. So that's the second phase of digestion, is the stomach breaking it down there. Now, the problem is if we don't have enough hydrochloric acid, which happens a lot when people are on medications, they're eating a lot of sugar, junk food, chemicals in their food, their body doesn't produce enough hydrochloric acid. And what will happen then is we'll start to make gas because we're not breaking down the protein. And the gas will actually reflux, we call it, up through the esophagus or your food pipe in here, and it'll burn this. Now this doesn't have that mucus layer. So that's what leads to esophageal cancer. And now we know that it actually will come all the way up and go into the lungs and create asthma. So it's a huge thing that can create lung problems with this. Now the problem is most people take what we call antacids, which is the absolute worst thing you can ever do for this, because it actually takes away the very acid you need to make and break down the protein. So what we have to do is get more betaine hydrochloric acid in there, which will help to break it down and will fix the acid reflux problem. Now, the other thing that happens is if the pH gets too high, in other words, it should be 1.5 to 3, and it gets too high because we don't have enough acid, the environment in there will allow a thing called H. pylori, which is a bacteria that will grow in the stomach, and it can eat a hole through the lining and cause ulcers and really create all kinds of health problems. It's pretty common. So very important that we have the proper amount of hydrochloric acid. So now the second phase of the digestive process I want to talk about. We've talked about chewing your food good, which breaks down some of the starches. We talked about the stomach breaking down the proteins. Now when any fat gets into the stomach, which could be like cheese or any type of fat that we get in our diet, it sends a message over to the liver. And the liver makes a thing called bile. And bile forms, it's a green substance, and it forms and goes into what we call the gallbladder, which is a little pouch about this big. And it sits right next to the liver. So it drains this bile in there, which is what we call a fat emulsifier. So think of it like dishwashing detergent. When you wash your dishes, you put in some dishwashing detergent so it breaks down the fat. And that's exactly what bile does. So when food comes out of the stomach, it's going to come into the small intestine, and the liver is going to make that bile, and then the muscles are going to squeeze that. It's like a turkey baster. It's going to squeeze that gallbladder, and all this bile is going to come out, and it's going to break down and emulsify the fat.